Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
Roy and I are both in downtown Minneapolis, but I am at US Bank Stadium for the Final Four. Roy is working away diligently for his clients. This is Roy Smalley's Chin Music, our baseball show on TalkNorth.com. So, Roy, I'm just going to ask you the broadest possible question to start this conversation. We now have seen the Twins play a handful of games. What has struck you so far?
A lot of real positive developments so far in their 4-1 start, and a couple of caveats that go with them. But you can't let the caveats get too much in the way of the hope and the positive things that we've seen. Pitching's been terrific. All the starters have acquitted themselves fairly well, with the exception of Kyle Gibson, and you can't. I mean, it's kind of understandable after what he's been through this winter with the E. coli and working his way back, and he just didn't pitch as much and just not as sharp. But other than that, starting pitching's been good. Relief pitching's been has been good, and the caveat to that is they caught the Cleveland Indians when they were scuffling offensively. They're not scoring any runs. They've got Lindor out, no more Yonder Alonso, no more Encarnacion. They're, as I said before, I think they're vulnerable, and they're particularly vulnerable right now. So despite the fact that the Indian starters, Kluber and Bauer, pitched so well, Twins able to get 2 out of 3 there, and then they beat a Kansas City club they're supposed to beat. Didn't pitch quite as well, didn't swing the bats quite as well in a couple of instances in Kansas City, but on the other hand, did enough really good things, both on the mound and at the plate and especially defensively, to win those 2 games. So all in all, a terrific start for them, winning 4 of the 5 games that they really, you kind of feel like they should win at least 3 of them, and that they got the second one against Cleveland really good.
By the time you hear this podcast, the Twins may have already started their weekend series with the Phillies. Obviously, we're recapping the first week of the season, hitting on some larger issues, and of course, we'll be updating you throughout the season. We appreciate everybody listening. It is interesting how, unless small sample size, few number of games, all that stuff, blah blah blah. But it was really interesting to spend time in spring training and have everybody I ran into with the Twins or with other organizations say, the Twins could win that division, and then to see them really look pretty good compared to the Cleveland Indians, I know, with Lindor out and all the other qualifiers. You could see it. You actually could see it, what people were talking about.
You absolutely could, and the Indians will be better at some point in time during the course of the year. They're going to be a lot better. They'll get Lindor back, and other things will happen, and Terry Francona will have them playing well, especially with the quality of that pitching staff and the way he's able to manage a pitching staff. So they're still the team to beat until the Twins step up and say it isn't so. But if you drill down just a little bit underneath the broader picture that we were just talking about, Barrios has pitched very well. Odorizzi was very encouraging, 11 strikeouts even against a depleted Cleveland Indian team. What I'm really excited about is how well Pineda pitched, how he looked. That could be a huge difference maker. And, of course, Mejia, the left-hander, went to the bullpen. He's thrown 3 scoreless innings. There's just a lot of things, and the bullpen has looked fairly solid. So there's just a lot of good things underneath the surface here. Then if you look at the at-bats that the Twins have had, we thought they were going to hit the ball in the ballpark and strike out a bunch. they've struck out the third fewest in Major League third fewest times as a team in Major League Baseball, and they've hit 1 home run, and that was by the guy that's really supposed to hit him, and Nelson Cruz. But they found a way to win without hitting the ball out of the ballpark here early in the season, but with really good at-bats up and down the lineup. Very encouraging sign. The home runs are going to come, and I imagine the strikeouts are going to come to some degree. But for the most part, very encouraging at-bats up and down the lineup. That lineup looks really very solid.
I'm going to take a wild guess as to what maybe your favorite sequence or favorite game of the season so far was. I think I know you. I think I can pick it out. I'm going to get to that. I do want to thank berrycoffee.com, our primary sponsor, keeping Minnesotans caffeinated since 1979. This is a Minnesota company. Berry Coffee Company has become the premier Minneapolis office coffee service. Berry Coffee Company provides state-of-the-art coffee brewing equipment and quality products to your business or institution. You heard Roy and I talk about it. If you're a restaurant, if you're a business, if you're a bar, even if you have a small space, you can get equipment and coffee from Berry Coffee and be happily caffeinated for the rest of your days. So I'm guessing, Roy, your favorite. And by the way, if you ever want to check out Berry Coffee stuff, go to berrycoffee.com. That's hard to forget. And you can also they also are very responsive. You can call them directly, and they'll tell you what they can do for you, do for your business. 952-937-8697. So, Roy, I'm guessing your favorite moments of the season were the game in Kansas City where Nelson Cruz in one at-bat gets the 3-0 green light and hits a drive to the opposite field for a key double, and then comes up later in the game, sees the shift, and nubs a single through the other way.
It was wonderful. It was a wonderful example for the rest of of his teammates. Here's a guy that's led the major leagues in home runs the last 5 years, in total home runs, and he wins the game by shooting the ball to right field because that's what was given to him. It was just wonderful. Great example. But beyond that, in that game, I think the Twins got 11 hits. I want to say they got 11 hits. And it's funny that you should bring this up because we didn't talk about this, and it's a little scary. You know me now too well. But of those 11 hits, I want to say that no more than 2 of them went to the pull field of the hitter. So Polanco gets a bunt single. 2 guys pound the ball off the plate for infield hits. All the rest of the hits were up the middle or to the opposite field, many of them with 2 strikes. I think only a couple of balls were hit to pull field out of the 11 hits. That's how you score runs when you're not hitting the ball out of the ballpark. It's how you don't strike out with guys on base. And again, we don't want this home run hitting team to become a slap to the opposite field. That's a type club. We want to hit the ball out of the ballpark, but hitting the ball in the ballpark has more to do with the pitches that show up and the way guys are swinging at the time. And if the pitches aren't showing up, or if you're fouling back the pitch that you should hit for a home run, then you got to figure out another way to beat the team. And the Twins did that. For actually 4 out of the first 5 games, and the best example of it was that game that you mentioned, led by Nelson Cruz, their big power hitter.
The other big topic of the first handful of games was the fact that Byron Buxton once again challenged the fence, ended up with a bruised back. Now, he came back the next day and pinch ran and scored the game-winning run, and obviously he's not hurt badly. But, what I get from fans a lot is, okay, got to tell Buxton to calm it down. You and I have talked about this before. I don't, and I cover Torrey Hunter pretty much every day of his career, and I had this conversation with Torrey constantly. And you and Torrey both are on the same page saying you cannot curtail the aggressiveness of a great defensive player and have him still be a great defensive player.
A player of that caliber wouldn't know how to do it. I mean, it's one thing to say that, but they just flat would not know how to do it. You'd see them. They wouldn't be as good a player, and not because they were not banging into walls. You'd see them lose aggressiveness on other balls that they would get to, and you just can't do it. They don't. A player of that caliber and of that mindset, you would totally mess with their mind if you told them they couldn't do what they do that results in them getting hurt once in a while. I mean, it's just one of the things you have to live with, and I know Byron's tremendously valuable and all those kinds of things, even without running into walls and really hurting himself. But so we'd all like to say tone it down, but it just can't happen. He wouldn't know how to do it.
As far as Byron's approach at the plate, really interesting in that, and he had a couple of big hits pulling the ball and looking kind of like the Byron Buxton we saw in the minor leagues, where he was just gonna turn on every fastball and try to drive it to left field. And then in his last game that he played before he ran into that wall, I saw him taking some bad at bats, frankly. So it's a little worrisome to me that he had some success in a way that might make him vulnerable.
I think that's exactly right, and we talked about this before. As much as we like the arrogance and the chip on the shoulder attitude, I'm just going to do it the way I've always done it. I'm not going to get my mind messed up by someone, a hitting coach trying to tell me to do this or that. I mean, I like the attitude, and with his talent, hopefully, maybe over time, that will win out. But what we saw in the 3 strikeout game, the last game he played, was the same old stuff. I mean, he swung and missed a high fastball out of the strike zone, and he looked very vulnerable again, swinging and missing sliders away from him, by a long way. And so I would love to see a happy medium. He doesn't need to try to change his swing all around and do some things mentally at the plate that he's not comfortable with. He doesn't have to do it, do what you do, but and be aggressive and pull the ball and all that kind of stuff. But when you get to 2 strikes, do something else. Figure out a way to say, okay, I give up left field now in favor of me putting the ball in play and watching the defensive players have their hair catch on fire because they have to make the plays so quickly with that speed. I mean, just don't keep doing the same things with 2 strikes. And, I'm in favor of him taking an approach where he hits the ball to center field and right center. So as we've talked about this forever, and just adjust the best he can on balls inside. If he doesn't want to do that, okay, but do it your own way. But don't strike out 180 times doing it your way on the same pitches all the time. Change at least the 2-strike approach to give yourself a chance. And I think you're absolutely right. Until he does that, or until he says, okay, I understand now. These guys are going to show me fastballs. They're going to throw me sliders until the cows come home. I'm just going to sit on the slider, and I'm just going to look for it. And when one's thrown for a strike, I'm going to hit that one over the left field fence. But if I'm looking for it and I see it moving away from me, I will take that pitch. I mean, it's got to be one of 2 things. And the easiest thing to do for a young player to adapt is to say, okay, I'm going to do something different with 2 strikes because this is silly. This is beating my head against the wall here is the definition of insanity.
Thanks to Bite Squad, bitesquad.com. Download the Bite Squad app. Makes it really easy to pay. Makes everything easy because they deliver great restaurant food to your door or fast food, whatever you want. Use bitesquad.com, the Bite Squad app. Our promo code is TALKNORTH for your first delivery fee, free, but you probably use that by now. Use it because it's Final Four weekend, because it's Masters week, because you have baseball games on, and you don't have to do dishes, you don't have to drive, you don't have to park. I love going out to restaurants, but every once in a while you just want it to be made easy. Also, they have a member deal where you pay $5.99 a month and get all your deliveries free within a 4-mile radius. And, of course, if you live in a major suburb or in Minneapolis, that puts you in range of a lot of good restaurants. Bite Squad app, food for your mood delivered. The bullpen is intriguing, Roy. I thought Fernando Romero was going to be necessary for this to be a good bullpen. He's not around now. They used Rogers at the end of one game. They used Park at the end of another game. It's going to be really interesting to see how much Rocco can juggle and whether in the modern era players will balk at not having an established role.
It is going to be interesting, and